What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Binge Empire and our coverage of Alien Earth. So, this is episode 8, better known as the finale, better known probably as The Real Monsters. So, we've got, I would assume, an awesome conversation ahead of us because, in my opinion, this was another awesome episode. Interesting to do a quick IMDb check before this and see a 6.4, 6.5, which seems crazy to me because I thought this was fantastic television. I thought it was a great way to end a fantastic season of television. This was one of my favorite things that I've watched so far this year. I mean, we're only 9 full months through, so there's still 3 months for something else to come along. But man, I had a blast this episode. I had a blast this whole season, and I'm excited to talk about this. So I don't know. I mean, Luke, it seems the tradition has been you going first after me. So take the reins.
Yeah, I mean, I did check on the IMDb score earlier because I was curious. I just don't agree. I think this episode was awesome. I think the season was incredible. Everybody I talked to about the show this last week, which we had a party, so there was a ton of people that have seen it, and everyone outside the podcast was agreeing. Like, this show was really good. It's engaging. The cinematography is awesome. Had you on the edge of your seat, always wanting more. And now that we know that it's a season 1 of multiple seasons, it were at least queued up where there could so obviously be more seasons. I think that's just great news all around. There's some thoughts I have to expand on there, but we'll talk about that as we do, as we go through the episode. So, Paul, how about you? What did you think overall?
I really, really enjoyed this season. I went in not really knowing what to expect and came out just so happy and such a fan of the Alien franchise now. I just I think some of the storytelling got kind of overshadowed by like the aliens and the big violent scenes and the big action scenes, but there was some really, really good dialogue and writing in general for these characters that I was not really expecting to just be like, wow. Like Wendy would say a line and I would be like, holy shit, maybe she is a
A
genius. Like that was really smart. So a
little
lot to
backhanded compliment right there.
well, she's 12. So whatever. 12-year-olds are smarter than me. Anyway, there is a lot to talk about this episode. So we are going to try to cover it in buckets, but we might just be all over the place because we are passionate. But we're going to start with Cavalier. And I think Adam kind of sums up very well the situation they're in. You know, comms are down. The cyborg cut the line. Utani is jamming the satellites. We're cut off. Non essential personnel were evacuated. Lost boys are in the holding cell 1, but not made for synthetic beings. No info on the adult xenomorph. Prodigy forces are running out. Containment for other specimens are good for the moment, but negative variables are increasing. It's just like everything is so bad right now. But
hmm
Cavalier isn't really reacting the way that you would think. And you see his computers go down, and then he gets comms up with Kirsch, which Kirsch really shed some light on maybe why Cavalier is so impulsive in the way he is. And we see that Cavalier is holding a bottle of pills in this scene as he's kind of freaking out. So what were you guys taking away from this opening scene with Cavalier?
Well, I think we have to address the elephant in the room where Kyle outwardly said if we don't get a direct aftermath of the action sequence we got at the end of last episode, he was going to be pissed. So does that stand, or did you forget in the week since?
No, I remembered. I think I just anticipated things moving a lot quicker based off of that storyline, but also that's why my job is not to write television and it's barely my job to talk about it. So I think they did everything very well and it
Mhm.
all worked out. I honestly thinking of it, it kind of skipped things we probably didn't need to see. You know, I thought that that would be more of a conflict of them like getting off of the island and things like that. Obviously, the way the episode concludes, they don't want to be off the island. You know, it's their island essentially. So I
Mhm.
appreciate this storyline, I think, more.
Yeah. I mean, if they're gonna do it in the way where they did, they just jumped ahead. I don't know how long it's been, but just like Paul said, the Adam overview was good. You got to see the Xeno wrecking terror all across the island as it's attacking random soldiers. It almost gets Dame pretty early in this episode, which would have been awesome TV in my opinion. But overall, like, it was just a good transition if we weren't going to get the direct aftermath. So I mean, I'm kind of ready to just keep going. If you guys are, like, can we also just talk about just them starting in the cell and those conversations? Because I was just surprised that Nibs was perfectly fine. Like, we had that conversation too. So it makes sense. Like, I don't think it's weird. I just assumed that Wendy's reaction was a little overblown for Joe just kind of electrocuting her and knocking her out rather than him decommissioning her, like, which is what I thought happened. But I guess that made it more reasonable for Wendy to forgive Joe later in the episode. So I'll forgive it. And Nibs had some cool shots this episode.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing with the show of you kind of have to constantly move between the understanding that they're like super beings and also children,
Mm-hmm.
in where their like capabilities, both mentally and physically, seem to just swing on a very wide spectrum. And mostly, I would say, maybe not mostly, but sometimes, depending on exactly what the story needs, which is totally fine. I'm just chalking it up to that completely, that Wendy doesn't really have any understanding of what's possible with them in their bodies. And, maybe that was like in the heat of the moment, the more 12-year-old version of her comes out.
Okay.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Nibs, but like you said, it makes the resolution between Joe and Wendy that much smoother, which I think we needed. I think if Nibs actually died, it would be a lot more difficult. But I was happy to see she was there. She was with it, compared to some of her other moments, but she is still violent and ready to go. I thought this scene with all the Lost Boys together was so good. Like, Curly's just, I'm the favorite. Why am I here? Right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is stupid. Maybe it's because you ratted. Did you rat on us too? I don't even know what you guys did. Like, the dialogue between all of them were so
Mm-hmm.
money. And then when Wendy finally comes in, she's like, you're not the favorite. Wendy is Peter Pan's favorite. And then she grew up, and that made him mad. So he kidnapped her daughter, Jane, which the connection was, I didn't see it at all. So I thought this speech leading into, we're in the cell because we can't be kids, but they won't let us be adults. So we're basically ghosts. And what do ghosts do? And Smith's like, they haunt houses, which they're going to haunt Prodigy Island, definitely. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was just a very hype thing to kind of lead into, hey, like, it's our time to be kings of the island here. So really cool.
And I thought Wendy had an amazing episode. She might have had the best episode of anybody in terms of just like how I viewed her as a character. Like, she just takes charge at the right moment. She gives a rallying speech in this scene. I love it. Then she just goes to work, right? She calls the Xeno from inside the cell, and then she starts turning off all the cameras like you were saying before, and then it just splits to all the random things she's doing to wreak havoc throughout the building, like whether it's like the elevators or just messing with Dame. Like, she does so many things from inside the cell. I just feel like her power level creeped up a bunch here, and I feel like they were telling us without telling us that she is like the Xeno goddess, if not like on that path. Like, it just felt that it kept leaning into that theory, everything we got from her this episode. And maybe that pissed people off. I don't know. Maybe the reason for the low ratings is that they don't like her overpowered ability to control the Xenos, and they're not necessarily just perfect creatures that destroy at will, and instead they're just tamed. And maybe people aren't liking that because, as far as I know, this is the first time in live action that something like this has happened to Xenos. But I'm just spitballing because I thought it was badass. Like, this is just a really cool idea, and I'm all in for her to, in season 2, just have these pets that maybe even get a couple more, and she has like a mini army. It's just a really cool idea, all going back to like that Xeno goddess stuff. I just don't know if the writer's ballsy enough to really lean into that, because that gets to like the more fantastical side of things, but I'm all for that.
She is incredibly overpowered, but I wasn't in a way that really impacts my enjoyment or my viewing in any way. So yeah, I can't really understand. I would say going as far as maybe like review bombing the episode. I mean, there's so many 1-star reviews, it seems like, which is just seems wild to me. So it has to be something along the lore lines like you're mentioning. But I like how overpowered she is. It's kind of funny that,
Mm-hmm.
it's just boy has no idea really what he's created here. And he goes much later. He just drops that line of like, you guys are floor models basically, and it's like, well, Wendy's, I think more than a floor model. I think that if she's a floor model, I'd like to see what the finished product is.
Yeah. And when he does walk up, she snaps her fingers to open the door,
Oh,
which was like, I think the moment of the episode for me. She didn't need to snap her fingers, but made it
not at all.
so much. She needed Cavalier to know that she opened the door. So that's why she snapped her fingers to give a little, here you go. But I got a question for you guys. I think maybe it could be why people are a little upset with this too, if they don't like the Xeno goddess theory. But why do the Xenos listen to her?
I think you can theorize that part of it is they don't feel the biological fear that they went out of their way to say earlier in this season that that's what the Xenos are searching for. And then on top of that, you can add in the layer that these Xenos are technically grown from
True.
Joe, which I don't know if there's anything there, but the third piece of it would be her just speaking their language. Maybe there's never been in history anybody attempting to communicate with them. So there's probably seeds of truth in all three of those things, or maybe not. Maybe I'm missing something, but at this point, it's all guesswork. I don't think anything's actually confirmed because it's just hitting a frequency that Boy Cavalier asked her to do, and they just all of a sudden listened. They also grew up hearing her talk, so maybe they trusted her. I don't know if they even have the capability to trust, but I'm just throwing things out there.
Now you made some good points. One, just they've probably never heard anybody be able to talk to them in the first place, so they're just shocked. And then two, they were like small babies when she first started communicating to them, so that could definitely be a thing. Like if she went to wherever they're from and talked, maybe they wouldn't listen. So no, that's a good point. I like that a lot.
Yeah, they have incredibly quick life cycles, but she was kind of in at the ground floor no matter what. So, I mean, maybe that even means it's even more impactful that you're in there for those 2 hours, 3 hours, that it's, as small as possibly can be.
So this episode, like we said, Wendy's just doing things left and right. Luke, you already hit him. Also, unlocking Joe and Morrow's cell. That's another one. And then Cavalier comes to talk, and this is when we kind of get his background about his drunk daddy and how at 6 years old he made his first synth. But I do want to bring it back to the opening scene real quick. We kind of jumped over it very quickly. We learned that, at least I think I learned, I don't know if this was prior knowledge, that Cavalier seems to have ADHD. And Kirsch is trying to talk him down. He's saying, with ADHD as severe as yours, impulse is a problem. You need to take your medications. And I think that explains a lot about why Cavalier is so smart, but also so dumb in a lot of situations. And this was one of them. I guess he was just bored. So we wanted to go talk to, the little Lost Boys. But I was like, what are you doing here? Why you must know that, from the videos and stuff, they're not exactly happy.
Well, also, I don't think he totally grasps what Wendy is capable of. I don't think he knew that she could unlock the cage. I mean, from his perspective, he was just going down there to talk to them confined.
Yeah. Adam did drop the line in the beginning where it was like this cage wasn't made for synths, but they weren't showing any fight to break out of there. So no, I can see that as well. He thought he was safe and just bored.
I mean, because we've seen a lot about Wendy using the powers in that way, but I feel like Boy and them haven't fully grasped that she does it. Like Kirsch was there when they're in the tent at the crash site, and she's like looking through the cameras, and she does it a little bit like in her own room, or maybe it was Nibs's room or Curly's room and stuff like that. But they never really talk about it openly that she can do that. I want to say like they watch her do it early too, when she's like kind of watching Hermit and that stuff, but it doesn't seem like it's fully clocked, let's say, to him that it's possible. Cause he just really saunters up, and there's no way he grasps that she has full control over everything electronic, anything that's connected to, let's say, data, the internet, Like she can control all of that, and that's just insane.
Mhm.
So, question for you guys then, because later on when she fights Adam, she explains to Joe that Adam, that is on the network, and that's why she is able to control him. When she says the network, I thought that she meant just the Prodigy network, but I wouldn't really explain how she was able to mess with the robot that talked to Joe. Or maybe technically it's all Prodigy, so it's all like the same system. But that being said, like I'm under the assumption that Utani and the ships that are coming in, she's not going to be able to control them in my eyes. She's only able to control Prodigy stuff because of what she said about the network. Now, I could be misunderstanding what the network means, but I was curious what you guys thought.
Yeah, that gets into the soft sci-fi of things of what actually is in her power, but I'm with you. I don't think she's going to be able to. She's not like Magneto, or like, maybe that's not even a good comparison, but yeah, like when Utani's technology comes into the building, I don't expect her to be able to control it. Like I don't think she could control Mara's arm. She could definitely probably control Kirsch, right? In the same way that she can control Adam.
Mhm.
So I think that's the limit. I don't know. I'm just assuming anything that's like wired in or like somehow fully integrated to the physical network in Prodigy is all I can really go off of. It was a weird power because she never really came into Kirsch with the intent to freeze him like that, so we don't know if she could do it, but I'm guessing that's the same situation that Adam's in, right? Because Adam wasn't like a prototype hybrid, right? He was a synth.
Seem to
I
be the
believe so.
OG.
That's how I took
Right.
it. Daddy, number 2.0.
Really? Okay. So this is a good conversation. Maybe I'm jumping ahead too far here, but I was
No.
seeing some people in our Discord talk about it. And I had this thought was that I thought Kirsch was the OG synth because you don't necessarily age. So age doesn't have anything really to do with it. And Kirsch has been treating Boy Cavalier like a child. And it actually makes a lot of sense when he is hiding things from him. It's just like your kid. And he says like about it talks about his medication in his past. I could buy either of it, but I actually don't know where I land on that. I think I'm leaning Kirsch was the dad, but you guys think it was Adam?
It's tough because I think the way that Kirsch acts totally aligns with that, but it's kind of, unless it's like just purposefully misleading and that boy has that conversation and then we find out this episode that Adam is also a synth, it's kind of asking us to think that way, in
Yeah.
my opinion, so I don't really know. It's so hard. I'm completely able to see both perspectives, and I have no idea how I feel. I think thematically, story wise, I probably like Kirsch more as an answer, just because
Yeah.
it just makes their relationship even more and their conversations even deeper and things like that. Because if it is Adam, it's not like that anymore. It's not like he has a father to son relationship with him at this point. He's completely subordinate. He gives suggestions and he's more than willing to give his opinion on things, but at the end of the day, he just does what boy says.
Mm-hmm. Which I can definitely see both. I thought about both. The only reason I kind of lean towards Adam a little bit more is because of the very end scene when they're all in the cell. Cavalier saying, "You're going to let him talk to me like that?" Like looking at Adam saying, like, "Back me up, Dad," which I put so much middle ground in between those two statements in that thought. But
Yeah, that's a big logical leap there.
hey,
I
come
prefer
on.
the thematic angle that Kyle was talking about with Kirsch, but maybe it's confirmed out there in some way, and maybe it's just up in the air. But either way, we'll be on the lookout. I'll ask that question to our Discord, see what people think, like officially.
So the end of all the Lost Boys in the cell scenes ends with hide and seek. So Cavalier runs away, which, oh my God, that was goosebumps moment. But the plan is Nibs, you find Sylvia. Wendy will take care of Boy K, as she calls him, which I refer to him as Boy K in my notes after that. I don't know why. Me and Slightly get Kirsch and the cyborg, and then Curly, you get the soldiers, which Curly goes, "Jane, my name is Jane." And that is one storyline I didn't see coming, a little upset with, just because I got so excited about Luke, what you were saying, Wendy versus
Mhm.
Curly, and then Curly rising to be this conversation with God being. I got really excited about that, but
She was a letdown as a character. It's unfortunate.
yes, but it's cool that she is on our side and that she finally came around and quote unquote grew up, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that she's still within that box since we have multiple seasons, but just at this point, it's not really gone very far.
Yeah,
it's gone backwards, actually.
I feel like now, actually, her possibilities are so much more now that she is willing to want to learn and be one of the progressive, be quote unquote the best one. But now she's on, the quote unquote good guy side. Everybody drinks so many times for the quote unquotes. This is nuts. All right. So we can jump over to Joe and Morrow. They just are in the same cell together. Morrow's arm is all locked up. Wendy eventually unlocks them, which Joe says, I'm going to go save as many as I can. And Morrow says, I'm going to go burn this place down, which Morrow leads to go to the first Kirsch fight scene. And then Joe ends up getting picked up by Adam. So anything and everything there. So much happened.
Yeah, let me just broad strokes say this about the episode because I just want this out there where if this show doesn't get a second season, I will look back way worse on this season as a project. Like significantly worse. Like this season goes from like an 8.5 to like a 4.5 to me because of how up in the air everything is. And I fully expected to get another season, which is why I'm sitting here saying I love this and I cannot wait for the next season. The only thing I want to put out there is that the writer himself came out and said in an interview that he really would love to do another season. Like there's so many directions he can go. He has plans if he gets the green light. But if he doesn't, he thinks that the fans will be more than happy to fill in the blanks. And I want to push back on that as heavy as I possibly could. Like the eye monster doesn't get any payoff, Curly as a character. But the reason I'm saying this now is because Morrow didn't necessarily have any really peak highlights this episode that he deserves as a character. Like his arc deserves to be fleshed out through another season and it will become peak. So that's like why I wanted to say it at this part, because like he had a cool confrontation with Kirsch. The season has been building up to that, but if this is the true end for this show and we get nothing else and it's all just just background lore going forward, like Morrow doesn't come off as a completed character that had a great arc. But like I said, I'm fully expecting a second season. I think the ratings have been good. Like Rotten Tomatoes crushed, even if this finale did on IMDb. So there's so much more to be told about him as a character. And I'm looking forward to that. But he really didn't have too good of an episode here. He was like, he has this one-on-one with Joe, doesn't flesh out too much, but it's just, like he just needs more. Like it felt like he got sidelined for Wendy, which was rightfully needed for this season.
Babu Sise, I believe, is probably a mispronunciation of this gentleman's name, but incredible. He is so good. I can't think of anything else I've ever seen him in. I hope that I'm able to recognize him in more and more things going forward because this guy's great, man. And if it's fair to say he doesn't have a ton of screen time in this episode, I just feel like he brings weight to every scene that he's in. I mean, the jailbreak itself, you just kind of feel the brutality that he's looking forward to. I loved the conversation with him and Joe, again, from this multi-season perspective, because that's been a big theme of Morrow's character is kind of how much he's given up to be who he is, what he is, where he is, and a lot of that maybe reluctantly at this point, although it's been so many years. And man, he's just awesome. It's tough because Kirsch is such a zany, wacky guy, perfectly written in all of the scenes that he's in. But Morrow I'm so tempted to say he's my favorite character.
Oh, we'll get there.
And yeah, and and then them having this scene together, is just like so good. There's still, I would say, unfinished business and all of that. So yeah, I thought for what it was, and I'm completely ignoring this idea that we would be satisfied in this as a one season thing because that's insane to me. But
we're all on that page, right? We can just agree.
For this being just like a small piece in a larger story,
Yes.
I was content with what happened pretty much in the finale.
Hmm.
He is so good, man. He wakes up and he's just like, man, it's the best I'm gonna feel all day. Let me enjoy it. And he looks like shit, but he just knows what's in store for him. And then he asked Joe, he's like, how's the lung? The boy, he told me all about it. Feels good being more than human. And I think this is like building more and more towards something. Maybe he's even trying to get Joe to become more of a cyborg or like be on his team. And he just feels like he has so much more. Just watching, the flashback episode that explains the whole Yutani, his background with his daughter and his family and how he owes everything to Yutani, which I did kind of like. They did bring that in here. He says, first there's always a price. First they give you something and then they take everything. And he says, yeah, you don't even know the half of it. So Morrow is so good. And then when he finally jumps Kirsch and they get into the John Henry of it all, man will beat machine. It's all about will. I was like, fuck yes, dude. This is so good. And I was just started cracking up when Kirsch is like, didn't John Henry die from exhaustion as he's like gurgling it through the white liquid? I thought that whole scene was so funny.
I am so happy that none of them were permanently removed from the possibility of season 2 here. Like, I really thought Mara was going to kill Kirsch. I know there was like the fake outs, the back and forth. I'm just so happy that they're both around. He'll need a tune up, but Kirsch is good to go after a little nibs healing.
He was just laid out on that slab at the end of the episode. I thought it was so funny. I mean, they weren't going to fix him, but the way he was just like hanging off of that bunk, let's say, in the cell was pretty funny. I know he is not incredibly happy right now.
Yeah.
That was also
especially not very happy with Smee and Slightly.
Yeah, which I was happy. I didn't exactly love how Morrow's story kind of came to a semi conclusion right here, as we've been talking about. But I will say, Slightly being the one to kind of give him that final knockout punch, that was satisfying. And I did enjoy that. Why they tied up Kirsch? I guess because, yeah, Kirsch has done some things. He's been leading them around. But at the same time, I was like, Kirsch was kind of your buddy. But who knows?
I see. I
They're
think
just
that
anti, yeah.
was all within what we talked about last podcast of like indirectly within the plans of Prodigy's benefit, even if it meant circumnavigating Boy Cavalier and it just being for his benefit. Like, I don't think Kirsch was ever actually team hybrid just for the sake of being team hybrid, but there's probably a bigger discussion there.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be something that they get into in season 2 as well, like a conversation of, you're more like us than you are like Boy, he treats you like XYZ and those things. But
Seems recruitable.
Yeah, to them, he's just in this moment, he's an adult.
Yeah.
And we don't really fuck with adults right now.
Yeah. So we can jump over to the Joe storyline. He kind of goes back to Wendy's room, which Adam is there waiting for him, brings him to the eye. I felt a little vindicated that was the target that Cavalier had in mind this whole time. It was Joe.
Half a point.
Half a point, because it doesn't fully get in there. But I thought Joe, I mean, clap, clap, clap to you for avoiding, this takeover. And I thought the scene with Adam when she yells stop and he freezes, I was waiting for that, and I was so hyped when it finally happens. And it's like, you can't hurt us anymore.
We mentioned the possibility that Adam was a synth at some level, right? Because of all the symbolism, I forget what podcast it was on that we talked about it. There was a lot of shots of Adam's character standing in front of like the background prototype workings that Boy Cavalier has done in the past. So fans were picking that out left and right. I didn't feel that this was a huge twist, but I'm sure casuals or people that were just sprinting through it and waited for the whole season to come out might have found it a surprise, but it was a good scene. Adam needed some sort of payoff, so it was good, even if it was just to show how overpowered Wendy is and be this whole catalyst for her to just break free more. So I like the scene a lot. And yeah, Joe as an actor killed it here too. Like I felt scared. He was dodging and weaving with the eye. I was freaking out. I didn't actually think it was going to happen because of how long the fight went on, and we knew Wendy was coming at some point. But I'm happy that she didn't just like step on the eye and destroy it. Instead, it gets out, and we can talk about that later.
She was kicking it around.
Yeah,
that thing was getting tossed around, and what do you think it feels like in your hand? It was all over his hands. He was catching it. Probably feels gross.
When he grabbed his cheek, it looked like a fish hook. It was like pulling his cheek. I was like, ugh, that was gross.
Yeah, you know what those like sticky, like gooey, like hands that are on the end of the string, and you throw them and they stick. That's what I feel like it would feel like a little bit, but like way worse and like real. I don't know why I just had that in my mind when I was watching it. Maybe to help me process that it's not that freaky, but yeah, it was funny how we get the Adam's like, the classic older gentleman is about to get in a fist fight of like, he takes his jacket off, you know what I mean? He takes like his tie clip off and he's doing the whole monologue about what's what and how like the world works and all of these things. And then when he just like immediately just freezes him.
Yeah.
And then just pushes him over and his eyeballs are still moving. What a terrible fate to be met with. But also he is a synth, so I don't know how they experience certain things in certain ways.
It's very Westworld like.
Yeah.
I was definitely getting a manners maketh the man moment from Adam right here, which he did not get to follow through with. And I don't know about you guys, but I thought Joe did an amazing job to live that long. When he goes into the cage to protect himself, I was like, I never would have thought about that quickly. So props to you.
With the eye, there's a nice counter where it goes to the little feeding tray. It's like, bitch, there's another way in here.
Yeah, I loved that.
I probably would have been done there. I probably would poop myself. That would have been my only idea.
But we have to also discuss like the post aftermath conversation that Joe and Wendy has here. This is them reconciling. She's throwing all of her cards on the table like she didn't trust him anymore, and he apologizes as he rightfully should. But then they start talking about the Xenos, and how happy the writers were sitting in the room when they cooked up the line of they're predators, like just throwing it out there, like we're gonna combine universes. That's the little crumb that for all the fans that think that there's a chance, because there is a chance that we do cross paths if there's a season 2 and they decide to make the new Predator IP. What's it called? Badlands.
They confirmed though, no aliens in it.
No aliens in it. Okay, well maybe set the scene just like this one did and throw in something like, oh, those predators, they're really aliens. And then, like you do a cross.
Yeah. I get it.
Get Luke in the writer's room, dude. That was perfect. But I also this is one of the lines I was talking about when Wendy says to Joe, don't say life is complicated. That's what powerless people say to make doing nothing okay. And I'm not powerless. I was like, damn, where was that this whole time? Was that in the coming of age, like episode 7 that popped in your mind? Because that was brilliant.
Yeah, I think she's still struggling, in general about her power, her kind of emotions, and how all of it fits together and works together. And I was kind of glad it's a pretty quick reconciliation between them. I think it's a quick reconciliation maybe from her perspective, in that I think she comes out feeling superior in a way. Not that like, you're human scum type of deal to him, but even like the way that the episode ends, I think to me is really informative about the two of their relationship, and where Wendy's kind of like, it's, she sees them as these kind of rightful rulers. She doesn't really view humans in the most positive light. She sees them as like manipulative, dishonest people that are kind of greedy and things like that. And not necessarily she sees Joe's that way, but I think it's maybe a little bit difficult for her at this point to not like see him as somewhat part of that human group. I thought he was he was pretty forthcoming about what kind of the decision and his thought process and all of those things. But also, I don't think he is totally reconciled with her and, like, for lack of a better term, what she is at this point. I don't think he's very comfortable with where things are in the moment. It's quite different than his initial plan of, like, we'll just get the heck out of here and settle down and live a peaceful life. It's pretty much the antithesis of that is what Wendy wants. And that's something I'm definitely going to be looking forward to in season 2, is the way that their relationship, I would say, continues to fracture and, like, is put into these different situations.
Well, you know what it really reminds me of, now that you kind of just talked through all that, is, have you guys seen the first Planet of the Apes with James Franco?
Yes.
So, like, the whole point of that movie is that the humans are bad, but James Franco is the best of the bad, and, like, even he releases at the end to let Caesar go and take control. I see, like, almost a similar vibe between Wendy and Joe, where the journey could be that, yeah, like, the hybrids are the best of us, like, let them go and you have to release them, and Joe's just the best of the worst humans from their perspective. That's just kind of the similarities I'm seeing there, but
Yeah, because I don't really see how they would go about trusting others, other
right.
humans, that is. And, like, we just mentioned the curse aspect of things. Maybe, you could be convinced of, like, a reprogramming or something of the synth, because in a way you could see that as, like, kind of honesty. It's very pure. It just kind of, at the end of the day, it's binary, it's zeros and ones of their programming. He doesn't really have emotions, the synths this is. So, but also it could be an interesting storyline of, like, them reconciling with the human aspects of themselves, because while they're hybrids, hybrid indicates that you're two things, or at least two things, so they have human sides to them as well. So season 2, man, we better get
Hell
it, because
yeah.
there's a lot of fun shit to do.
Yeah, I just think of Wendy when she's looking at Dame Sylvia, and she was like, "You're the monsters, like you're the problem." And yeah, it's kind of seems like Wendy's setting that mindset for humans. So it
Yeah.
will be interesting if you're saying, Luke, like, if the best of the humans comes forth and somewhat changes that cemented fact in her mind. And as we all know, the best of the humans is Joe. So Joe's gonna find a way to make it work.
Not Mr. October.
Dude, so upset. No, no moments there that they brought that back to, but exactly what we're
Season
saying.
2.
That's what season 2's. You know what? That's season 3. That's what that is for, because that's
Yeah,
how long
man.
the show's gonna go.
Yeah.
The only person that took a swing this episode is Kirsch, swinging that keyboard at Morrow's head.
Hmm.
I mean,
True.
if
But
you're
then he
trying
gets
to
his back
say
broken. So
if you're trying to say Kirsch is Mr. October, I am all on board because I fucking love Kirsch. All
yeah.
right. So the eye escapes from this whole shindig. We don't see it until the very end, which is amazing. But Joe and Wendy go to find Cavalier, who Wendy sicked the Xeno on, and just pure comedy. Cavalier skipping down the hallway, putting on a Kevlar vest. Cavalier in Kevlar. He's like, 1,000,000 to the first guardian or guard that finds me. And when he when the rest of his guards get killed by the Xeno, he's like, whoa, I think I pissed myself.
Yeah.
And then just holds his hand up to Joe like he didn't just try to kill him. And he's like, yeah, come on, dude, help me out. Which that kick to Cavalier's face must have felt so good.
I find it better for his character that he didn't go the route of, like, when all's lost, he's threatened by the aliens, he knows he's beat, that he didn't start groveling. Like, he
I
did keep
love it.
this calmness, and it actually, I fully expected him to grovel and maybe even die by the end of the season, but, like, he's pathetic and he knows that now to some degree, and I kind of like where we left him as a character. Even like this scene, like you're saying, like him playing around, I think it all kind of works, and I still really love him as a character and the actor. Shout out Shakespeare from Sandman.
I would say that I don't think that he thinks he's pathetic in any way. I don't even know.
No.
He lost,
I agree with that, but I'm just saying that as, like, they didn't, like, deliver it to the audience that he started turning and, like, becoming pathetic in
Oh,
our
yeah.
eyes just for, like, how him acting like, please don't kill me, like, I'll pay you all this money. I didn't want any of that.
Yeah, well, I think he's just delusionally confident that like
Mhm.
it's everything is fine. You know, even with the when Wendy snaps and opens the cage, he's kind of like, "Oh, all right, didn't see that
No,
coming."
you
But it's
you could
not like
argue that
it
it's
matters.
going according to plan of what he wants her to evolve into. I agree with that.
Yeah, so I don't think he feels like he's in a ton of danger in any way. He doesn't give that off. I mean, I think the xenomorph is a different story because that to him is like an unknown, an organic being that he really can't control in a way. Well, I still feel like he has this level of confidence that either the Lost Boys can be re-wrangled or that he can just control them in a
Yeah.
certain way.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I get what you're saying. He's not pathetic, but he looks pathetic from an outside view looking in with his situation and how he acted.
Yeah, I mean everything just seems like a joke to him.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, nothing serious. There's no stakes or anything.
Yeah.
So we did a big meet of this episode. A few of the side characters, like Dame Sylvia, we see her real quick. She's going to the graves again. Felt a little nice little pat on the back for old Polly boy over here because I just made up that excuse of why that the graves exist last episode, and here she is putting the flowers down on them. So that was a good explanation. We also got Siberia and Rashidi and the rest of the soldiers. They get her, bring her to her room. That's where she gets tortured by Wendy, and then the soldiers also get tortured by Wendy before Siberia meets her demise to the plant monster that we
Mhm.
finally got. I was happy to get that.
He didn't die, did he?
No, he got knocked out by
No.
Curly.
Very excited that he'll be around because I thought it was going to be a clean slate of them just murdering all of the soldiers. But yeah, everybody knew that plant monster had to have some payoff, and can't even call it payoff, but it just needed to come into play in a scene here. If they left that up in the air, that would have been really lame. So it's gruesome. It's basically a Venus flytrap that just destroys you, and it would be a horrible way to go.
Oh, the blood that was just pouring down. It was crazy.
You know what? Maybe now that we're talking about these scenes, maybe the low ratings are because in the scene with Dame Sylvia, the xenomorph gets shot like in the head, and then the soldiers come from behind it with their guns up.
I
That's
So
didn't.
maybe people were like, "That's stupid."
That's funny.
give it a 1 star because of that.
Yeah, because I was like, "Oh, that's funny." They the bullets did a wanted and hooked around and hit it in the
Oh,
fucking
you
face.
stole the line from me. I was just gonna say Rashidi's from Wanted and was able to
Well,
spare the
you got
bullet.
four wanted posters behind you that I could just read the word on. So
Oh, damn. That's awesome. But also lame, now that you mention that.
Oh,
yeah,
and
I
I
just
guess
again stupid, but sometimes it's hard not to be like, I don't know if that made sense to me.
one of the bigger surprises of this episode was at the end of Dame's story before she gets thrown in jail was I thought Nibs was going to rip her head off, just like I kind of predicted earlier. So I was definitely wrong about that. I don't know how she reined it in. I thought that was Nibs' chance to get her full revenge. And with that like wicked smile she had, she was like, haha, taking you to jail. I thought it was going to be like, haha, give me that face and just rip her.
Definitely. I was like, poor Dame. She gets nibs assigned to her of all the Lost Boys, but turned out she kind of seemed to come out the most unscathed.
Her husband, pretty dead.
Ah, yeah, true. That's a good point. So all the grown-ups are in the cells, and Wendy has some great lines aimed at Cavalier here. You know, you're not Peter Pan. You grew up. You've always been a grown-up, and that's why you've never been able to be Peter Pan. And then we got all the Lost Boys coming up. They're saying the plant monster and the eye, they got away, but they can't hurt us. So, what's the big deal? Joe's in the background behind, all the hybrids here. And I forget who asked, but somebody asked, what do we do now? And Wendy just goes, we rule. And
Mhm.
I was not expecting that. Like, we rule. I thought they were going to go away and try to like have their own little space, but they're like, nah, we're taking over, which hell yeah. You talk about one of the best needle drops in the series. Hell yeah. That was
Well,
amazing.
while this was happening, did we not also have the overshot scene of Utani's ships all flying into the
Mhm.
island?
Mhm.
Kyle, did you have the slightest inkling that a nuke was coming to just take us all
No.
out here? Okay,
I thought of
good.
it. I thought of it.
Refuse
I
to
thought of
believe
it
it.
too, just because there was too many storylines that we need to talk about in season 2. But I just thought it was funny that if there was going to be a moment, it would have been that. And I just couldn't imagine what Kyle's reaction would have been to just like
I would have
nuke
I would
the
have
island.
made I would have been a bot farm on IMDb of just 1-star reviews of the episode if they
Setting up
dropped
new
a nuke.
emails. Just one
Yeah,
star.
exactly. I would have somehow recruited all those monkey. I would have made a deal with Lex Luthor and got
Oh
all
yeah,
those
there you go.
monkeys to be trashing this TV show on the internet if they dropped a nuke at the end of this.
But in terms of like what's going on in this room, like the cell, like I loved it. I love what Wendy was going for here. It really sets up for a fun storyline next season. But Paul, I swear that she was going to end that monologue talking about Boy Cavalier by calling him Captain Hook, but then she just didn't. Like I thought it was building to that, and it would have been Chef's Kiss because you called that a while ago.
Yeah, that would have been money. I thought she was going to say the same thing or like, you're the crocodile, but instead she was like, no, you're an adult. And I was like, that's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
An interesting thing that was brought up in the Discord by Girly Pop, who's been killing it
All
this
over.
season.
Oh,
An
man. She's the best.
OG Alien fan here. And interesting to note that there are 5 Lost Boys and there are 5 corporations or companies that rule the earth at this point. So are they as a 5 going to like enter the ring in that competition, or is it is it just a coincidence that there's one of them for each of those corporations? I don't know. I mean, there's some nice kind of symbolism there in a way. I mean, the Pearl Jam song, shout out Delco Nick, was kind of, the lyrics themselves talking about like a 5v1, which is
Mhm.
interesting. Not entirely sure the right way to interpret that, but just, the numbers
did-
work out in certain ways.
That was a good call out from the Discord because I think there were the 5 versus the 5 is cool, but maybe you can consider Wendy's side the 1, and that works too. But I love it.
Yeah. I didn't about admit it. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm getting super hyped where it's each season is like a corporation that they take down. I mean, I would be okay with 5, potentially 6 as a wrap up seasons. I mean,
Yeah,
if it's gonna be as good as this and as fun as this has been, I would not say no to any more.
Hell yeah.
agreed. And I mean, Boy Cavalier would have to go first, and like you said, Paul, you already pointed out, like he smiles after Wendy's "Now We Rule" thing, and that's just awesome. The fact that he's going to be around to see that all happen, his dreams are going to come crashing down pretty quickly once he realizes he has zero control over the situation. But just happy that he's also around. We didn't have any major deaths, right? Unless I'm forgetting anybody.
Siberia is pretty much the only one died to
Yeah.
the plant monster, but yeah, I was expecting mass murder.
Maybe
episode.
that could be part of the reason because it's not classic Alien where usually it's just the one survivor being Ripley, but like that could be a thing because the Xenos did get a little sidetracked or a little push to the back, but they looked awesome in this scene when they're just crawling around the cage with a little baby one that's right under the big one. I was like, yo, this is awesome.
Yeah, it seems like too that because we talked, I think, before of like it's interesting that they're kind of pitting Utani and Prodigy. And it's not like we're really on either of their sides, but we kind of talked of like what side we would maybe be on jokingly. But Utani is barreling down on the island with bad intentions. It's not going to be like it's all good now. Boy's not in control. Like she's also going to be anti-hybrids and things like that. So it seems like, and I know we got in trouble in a way of last episode thinking it would be an immediate continuation of the conflict that was on screen. But I mean, I don't know how, if there's not a season 2, it's not almost like pedal to the metal of there's bombers and bombing jets and like reinforcements coming to the island. So
it's just a Xeno slicing the missiles with its tail as they're flying through the air. No issue.
Bunch of backflips.
Oh my God. It'd be so cool. All right. The cinematography, got to bring it up, Kyle. So many good scenes or shots this episode. The overhead shot of a Xeno running around just killing all the soldiers. I was like, video game. Like that totally feels like Dead Ops. Like that was incredible. And then there was the classic overlay, showing two scenes at once, which they did a lot this season to a very good extent. I thought it was very effective, but it was Wendy calling the Xeno and then just showing the Xeno reacting as an overlay. I was like, it hits a little bit harder than showing two separate. I don't know what it was, but they were doing some magic.
Dude, they're just great at it, man. I mean, the scene when Wendy snaps and opens the door to the cage, just like the way that they're all like positioned, like she's sitting crisscross applesauce on the ground, and like they're all kind of like framing her like perfectly on the bunks around her. The scene of Dame Sylvia when Nibs comes up behind her, the way she's like looking out the window into like the darkness and the rain and outside of where we kind of are thinking the Xeno might be, but then it's really, Nibs kind of shows up behind her and that stuff, Boy Cavalier walking with the vest and like the lights are kind of flickering and all of that stuff. It's just like Adam when he's in the background of Hermit or Joe rather, like going into Wendy's room. Like it's just, I thought visually the show was awesome. It was so cool to watch. It's just, and again, like we've mentioned, we're amateur. Like I don't really know anything about any of that stuff, but I know what my eyeballs like, and my eyeballs were liking a lot of this stuff.
For sure.
You're speaking about eyeballs. We got one last scene that's going to be real quick. And then we'll do a couple of last notes. And then I think Luke has got some questions for us. But that last scene is the eyeball. We saw it escape. In the very beginning of the episode, it opens with lifeless Arthur's body on the beach with a crab. Props for that crab because it put its dukes up when the Xeno came to fight it, which the ball's on that guy. But the very end, I love how they teased us and then made it, they circled all the way back around. The eye popping into Arthur's dead body. None of us called it. I never in a million years would have thought it was happening. I don't know what it means going forward, but I thought it was a very creative way of getting the eye out of there, but able to still cause mischief.
That actor was probably so hype that he gets to come back for season 2. Thought there was no chance after he's like, Xeno baby's popping out of my chest. Classic. This will be a cool moment I could tell my kids about in the future. Now he's back for season 2. He's gonna be the eye. I love everything about that. And that's insane that I queued up, I think 5 or 6 options that I was seeing around, not just our Discord, the internet. Like I thought it was all the reasonable people that the eye could have ended up in, and I never in a million years would have guessed Arthur. He would have been like plus like 10,000 if I said the lines.
Oh yeah. It's a little detour until it gets to Boy. We all know it.
Yeah.
We didn't get
but
that.
I mean, will be interesting of like, is there going to be another like SEAL Team 8 from Yutani that comes up onto the beach with their snorkels and is like, whoa, what the fuck is that?
Mm-hmm.
That guy's dead, but he's not dead. And then he's going to try to speak. And then we'll just kind of see where we go from there. I mean, the eyeball, I think it has a curiosity to it. I don't think it's just going to try to escape the island. I feel like it's kind of maybe is a little bit interested in what's going on. It just needs a little bit more like capabilities, which, Arthur's body is readily available for, it seems at this point.
Yeah, he's a smart guy too. Smart brain.
So let's give our final overall thoughts. And then we can just end this out on saying each of our top 5 characters, because there's so many good characters in the show. Fire from the hip or think about it while we're going through these parting shots. And then we'll just close out, call it a season. So I can just start, give you guys some time to think. Like I said off the top, I thought this season of television was excellent. I really think that, I think you said it before, Kyle, on a different podcast, like just the idea of just sitting down, locking into a new Alien episode, you kill the lights, you just set the mood. It just felt fun. The writing was there, the cinematography, you guys all just laid out, the plot lines are great. And the fan theories have been really fun to engage with, not just in our Discord, but just like Reddit in general, Twitter, all of that. It's been a really good time. And I'm hoping that the numbers were good enough that they'll continue with season 2, because you could just feel the passion from the writers. They care about the IP, or maybe they don't, and I just don't realize that they don't. And that could be part of the reason that it got shit on an IMDb. But like, I like what I'm seeing, and I like most of the answers that this guy's given. If this is truly a 1-season show, I'll be pretty damn unsatisfied with the whole Wendy's evolution, with Utani like not getting enough, Curly as a character, like there's so many things, the eye monster, that won't feel satisfying. So I'm just gonna be arrogantly confident that it's gonna get a second season and take it in stride. This was like I said earlier, like an 8.5 out of 10 season. I really freaking liked it.
Yeah, enjoyment wise, it's so up there. I mean, again, like I said, kind of at the top of, I'm trying to think. It's hard to, maybe a little difficult on the spot to think of like everything that I watched this year, but this has got to be in that upper, percentile of all the things that I enjoyed this year. Because again, like you said, like I had said earlier, it just felt like fun appointment television. It was fun to get into the Discord and see what everyone was thinking and reacting. I mean, I haven't read a single negative thing besides seeing the number score for the finale episode. You know what I mean? So I can't imagine not enjoying what this show was giving us. I mean, episode 5 was just fantastic. All of the, again, not to try to speak on it like an expert, but all like the technical details, it felt like, of the filming. I think that also showing like how much they care about making the show good. And I just can't imagine the decision, unless it's like so incredibly expensive to make, why it would not get another season. So I feel quite confident that we'll probably be back here again chatting about season 2, because if not, one of the biggest disappointments in my recent TV watching experience would be if this doesn't get more.
Not Wheel of Time.
No, stop.
Well, that's why I said one of.
Oh, I thought you said no. I thought you said no. Okay, sorry. That makes sense. No, but I'm exactly the same boat, because like, I don't know if like I'm making good points here, or if I'm being a spoiled brat because like I'm not getting answers. But there was like 3 things that I was kind of a little unsatisfied with. One of them being Morrow, when is a machine not a machine? Totally never came back. I would like to say they have an answer to it, and they weren't just like throwing a philosophical question out there to get like the creative juices flowing for the audience, and they actually have an answer. But I was waiting for that. This episode never came. The God convo, talking about Cavalier when he's talking to the sheep, and he's like, what a conversation we would have, man. The things you've seen. I think that is just setting it up more. I think it was intentionally planting that seed, but I was upset, obviously, that we didn't get it. And then the third one, the ticks on the ship when it crashed just being a non-issue. I 100% thought that the ticks that killed the guys that responded to the crash were going to be an issue outside of like Prodigy Island, where I don't know. I don't think it makes sense that they just disappeared and we didn't hear anything about it. But
Yeah.
Other than that, I absolutely love this show. I already said in the beginning, my expectations blew my expectations out of the water, and I would be so upset if we didn't get a season 2, because some of the character development I never saw coming blew me out of the water with how much I cared about these guys. And I feel like there's still more to tell. Definitely a lot more to tell.
Sounds like we're watching Prometheus together soon.
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Is Babu Sise in Prometheus? Because that would just be, I would like it so much more. Which,
all right, Paul, go. You want to start? You want to kick it off? Your top 5 characters?
Yeah. Speaking of, I'm going to say Morrow is my favorite character. It was between him and Kirsch, but Morrow just gets more screen time. He got that backstory. So I love every time he was on the screen, we got something entertaining. Besides when he was fucking with my boy slightly, but whatever. We'll move past it. He did what he needed to do. Kirsch, don't need to say anything. Incredibly entertaining. Then I got Boy Cavalier as my third favorite, just because I thought he was the most interesting. And then Wendy, because what a cool character. I mean, not only is she a hybrid, but a hybrid that can communicate with Xenos. That's insane. And then I think Kyle had some influence on this, but I think I want to go Smee for my fifth because I'm just thinking, who out of everybody was I excited to see on the screen? And boy, was I excited to see Smee, man. He was the best child, quote unquote, actor. He made me laugh the most. And I hope he actually kind of has more of like a not I don't want to say more of a role because he had a big role in this season, but like active, I guess, and
Mhm.
doing things.
Let me just say, well, one, he was huge and integral to Wendy forgiving Joe in the moment and unlocking the cage for Joe Amaro. That was really good. But he had a hilarious background moment. I don't know if you guys caught it when Wendy snaps and opens the door and says run to Boy Cavalier. He's in the background like doing like things. He's like trying to be like a monster. Like he's like it was laugh out loud funny. It was so damn
I
good.
missed that. Oh no.
He's like roar. Like and he's just like trying to be like a monster.
Is that me next?
Sure.
All right. I will go Morrow number 1. Definitely my favorite character. Kirsch number 2. That's easy. That's like a 1A, 1B type of situation right there. I'd say Wendy at 3. That's more of like a just kind of like an intrigue and an interesting thing. Maybe more so than like, let's say, pure feats, as they say these days. 4, I'm going to say my boy Smee, just because I like a little side character that just wiggles their way into your heart, and it's fun to ride for side characters like that. And 5, I'm going to say the Eyeball Monster,
Mm-hmm.
because damn it if it wasn't delivering suspense and making us think and making us theorize. And I just think pound for pound, it probably had the greatest impact on the story.
Yeah, I mean, my answer is not really unique. I had the same top 4 as Paul, and either way, different ordering though. Like first, I still ended on Kirsch just being the top dog. He just felt like the best actor in the show, and that says nothing about anybody else. I just loved every time he was on the screen. Wendy at number 2, which she was only there because of the finale. Thought she had the best finale of any character. Thought that was amazing. Boy Cavalier ended up at 3 for me, Morrow at 4, and then the Eye at 5. So we're all pretty much there, kind of the same, give or take one person. Seems I was surprised how similar most of our responses were, but Morrow would have been higher in my ranks if he got more in the finale. But I think that after season 2, Morrow will be top 2.
Recency bias.
Yeah, no, for sure.
All right. It's my job, right, to play us out?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, baby. For the last time, that's going to do it. The last time for season 1, let's say, for Alien Earth over here on Binge Empire. And while the Alien Earth coverage is sadly ending, Binge Empire continues. Binge Empire is just one of multiple podcasts underneath the Bingetown TV network. On Binge Empire moving forward, I believe Gen V is probably going to slot itself into that flagship position. Gen V over on that season 2 over on Amazon Prime. We'll also be covering Alice in Borderland season 3, a surprise season 3, I would say, in my opinion. That's over on Netflix. Fantastic season 1 and season 2. Not entirely sure how that coverage is going to materialize. I believe it'll just be one episode in the full season. Am I wrong?
I think so.
I think so. Okay. So if you watch that show on Netflix, well, first of all, if you haven't seen that show on Netflix, you should really go watch that show on Netflix. And then once you're done watching it, then check out our coverage right here on Binge Empire. But like I just mentioned, Bingetown TV rather, more than just Binge Empire. The Core is our other main podcast that covers everything that is on Apple TV Plus. We just wrapped Foundation season 3. We're in a slight lull, let's say, until Pluribus, the show that is written by Vince Gilligan, who also did Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. That comes out November 7th. So that will be the next big show over on the Core. But right now, I think we're just doing a little bit of fun coverage. We're looking at whatever movies are on Apple TV Plus. We're also talking about Bad Sisters, which is a fun little dark comedy show over on Apple TV. So if you enjoy Apple TV and the shows that they have, make sure to check out and subscribe to our other podcast, The Core. And once again, for the final time in Alien Earth Season 1 history, we are Binge Empire, and thank you so much for listening.